to him about Roger Stone. Judge, thanks so much for joining us tonight. Is it, in your view, a problem that the foreman of the jury in Roger Stone's trial turned out to be a former Democratic congressional candidate who attacked Trump on Twitter and mocked concern, I think most critically, about the FBI raid on Stone's house? Why was someone like this allowed to remain on the jury?
Let me start by telling you I'm happy to be here with you. And Roger Stone and I have been friends for about 40 years. I'm going to take the friendship equation out of this and wear my judicial hat. This is information that she must have hidden from the lawyers and the judge who interrogated her before she was put on the jury. Now, in federal court, judges pick the jurors, so judges do the interrogation. Right. The lawyers sign off ahead of time on the questions the judges are going to ask. The purpose of the interrogation is to weed out people that have a bias, prejudice, knowledge of the case, or interest in the outcome. She obviously had a prejudice against Roger Stone, a bias in favor of his prosecution, and an interest in seeing him convicted. That should automatically disqualify her. Now, what do you do when you discover this after the conviction, Tucker? The proper thing for the judge to do is to bring this juror back in the courtroom in the presence of Roger Stone and his lawyers and in the presence of the 4 prosecutors who have since resigned, because their resignations are not effective until she, the trial judge, accepts them, and interrogate this woman in order to determine whether the bias influenced her guilty vote and whether that bias was passed on to other members of the jury.
So that's interesting. That sounds, from a layman's perspective, like the right thing to do. Though, I mean, the court screens for bias, of course, in jury selection. If it turned out that this juror who ran the jury as the foreman lied about her background or her views, what would that mean? Well, it would be catastrophic for her. First of all, she's a lawyer, so she would be prosecuted for perjury since the statements are given under oath. And if convicted, she'd lose her license to practice law. That would be the least of her concerns. She probably would serve jail time if she lied in order to affect the outcome of a case. And if she did lie, if the judge concluded she lied, Tucker, that is an automatic vacation of the conviction and an order for a new trial if the government even wants to try Stone a second time. So Judge Amy Berman Jackson has kept Roger Stone under a gag order for many months now. He makes his living by speaking, of course. He's now broke as a result. I'm confused. We can go on television and attack Roger Stone. CNN does it all day long. They did it all day today. Roger Stone is not allowed to defend himself using the First Amendment rights the rest of us enjoy. How is that allowed in this country? It is highly inappropriate and a direct violation of the First Amendment. There is at least an argument to be made about restraining both the defendants and the prosecutors from making statements about the case while it's pending, because those statements might make their way to the jury. That's an extra courtroom way of communicating with the jury, and I hated having to do it, but there are sometimes that's the only way you can assure the integrity of the trial. But there is zero benefit to be served to the justice system in silencing a defendant after he's been convicted. Once conviction comes down, or acquittal, as the case may be, the defendant resumes the full panoply of First Amendment rights that he had before the case started. You would certainly think. And finally, the